Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is Keith Smith, and he's here to talk about 9 to 5.
That's right, Paige. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Keith.
I'm glad. We're doing the Dolly Parton musical, 9 to 5, and you were out of town one day, and Eric and I did a brief show about it fairly recently. But the reason I'm back is because it is selling so well, and we actually added 2 performances. So the original show dates were Thursday, Friday, Saturday, March 27th, 28th, 29th, and then the next week, April 3rd, 4th, and 5th, both Thursday through Saturday runs. But because of the sales, we sold 898 tickets the first day.
Wow.
Which is, I felt like, some kind of hobnobbing with some famous celebrity who sells out their concerts in an hour or two. But there were still seats left. But within a week, we were getting pretty low, so we added the Wednesday before that Thursday, March 26th, and then Sunday, March the 30th, the end of that first week, and it's a matinee. And this is the 3rd time we've done a matinee there. We did one for Annie, and we did one for our recent summer show, Last Romance. But this is only the 3rd time out of 37 shows that we've added a Sunday performance, so that's good for people who don't see as well to drive and that sort of thing. But they're both selling real well, and it will be gone soon. So if you can get in to get, call in, and we'll tell how to get a ticket. That's great, but it's a great problem to have. But we do have plenty of balcony seating left, and I love it when people eat. It is catered by Daniel Bonin this time, but the balcony is one of the most comfortable places to sit, and you can get a nice overview of the show. And just this time, if you'll be willing to forego eating, you can get a nice seat up in the balcony, and then you'll know next time to call early. I'd like to think that we have a good reputation, and that's one reason that we're selling, and because Eric was so entertaining before. But he's done this show before years ago in Hickory. But I think the main thing is the attraction of Dolly Parton. People really like her in this area. And 9 to 5, it has name recognition. So anytime you do that, something like The Sound of Music or something that's a big name, I think it's going to sell better. But I still was pleasantly surprised with the way this one's going. Well,
I have to ask, because inquiring minds want to know.
Sure.
Is this a record for fast-selling tickets? Or
maybe the most originally, but when we did Sound of Music, that was our first big-scale spring musical. We'd done some musicals, but that's when we started the process, or not spring, but fall. We started the process in 2013 of having a classic comedy in the spring, and then a classic musical comedy or musical theater piece in the fall. And it was Sound of Music that fall. And we had Dan Truitt. I knew we were doing this show. I've told this story before, but it will refresh some people's memories. We were planning to do this show for like a year in advance of that, and I had a dental appointment in Concord, North Carolina, and I went down. I didn't eat ahead of time, so after the appointment it was about 11, so I went to this little hole-in-the-wall place in Troutman, or called Troutman's in Concord, and it was a nice place, but there was like a coffee clutch there, like you have your community coffee group, and I was just sitting there, and one of them had a birthday, and they sang to him. I remember that, brought out a cake. And one of the guys said, "See that man over there? He was in The Sound of Music." And I said, okay. And I thought they meant like a local production. But no, he was in the movie in 1965, the iconic Academy Award-winning movie, Sound of Music, with Julie Andrews. And it was the guy who played Rolf Gruber. He's the young man who sings, "I am 16 going on 17 with the oldest Von Trapp daughter." And it was Dan Truitt, who was from California, delightful guy. We're still friends today, but I met Dan that morning, summoned up my nerve to go talk to him. But he had been in the movie as Rolf, but of course a young man, but he couldn't play that role then. So we cast him as Captain Von Trapp. And he made the joke, I loved it, he said, "I'm 16 going on 70 instead of 17, because that September 10th he turned 70 years old in 2013. So he's now in his early 80s, but he still lives in Concord. He just wanted to get away from the California lifestyle. So I went up to him, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I went up to him, and after I found out who he was, and told him we were doing the show in Hudson, and would he consider coming up to play Captain Von Trapp? And kind of caught him by surprise, but he came up and saw the town, and we went to eat at the Japanese restaurant beside Town Hall in Hudson. And I'll never forget his fortune. He opened his fortune cookie, and it said, "You're about to embark upon a new artistic adventure with a new friend." I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He said, "Wow." And then on the way home that night, if you remember or not, this is 12 years ago, a plane had to make an emergency landing on Interstate 40, and he was coming up and had to kind of screech to a stop as that car. He was the first car going down the road where that plane landed. He said, "I knew this was meant to be." And so he came in and did the show. And I said all that to say that with the name recognition of Sound of Music and of Dan Truitt, just like with 9 to 5 and Dolly Parton for this show, we sold out very quickly and turned away several hundred people, which we'll probably be close to doing that this time. This show and Sound of Music and Grease, and believe it or not, the best Christmas pageant ever, because there were so many kids and so many family members came. I think those are the 4 best-selling ones we've ever had. Annie was up pretty good, but and they all sell well. And a lot of times they sell out the second weekend after word of mouth gets around. But I would encourage people to come early and get tickets early for every show. Well, but it's right up there.
There may not be any tickets. I mean, they may already be sold by the second weekend. They may be sold before the curtain goes up. So.
In the future, that's true. And I hate it when you have the situation where you have like maybe 50 seats or 30 seats or on a given night in the first week. Then the second week you're turning people away if you could have just gotten some of those to come the first week. But I'm just glad people try to come when they can. But we do encourage, there's still a few dinner seats. But
that was going to be my next question.
Especially that opening Wednesday. But after that, they're pretty much piecemeal, like one here, one there. So if you're willing to come alone, or if you're willing to come as 2 and 1 sit here and 1 sit here at this table, that's fine too. But and it's Daniel Boone and catered, as I said. They can only cater for us in the spring now because after COVID, even they, with their big cast of waiters and waitresses, wait staff, they told me they really can't afford to send enough people down to cover us for 6 nights in the fall because of leaf season and because a lot of weddings are in Boone at that time and people going back to school. So they need the people up on the premises. But if you like the Daniel Boone menu, come in the spring. And like I said, but this time, just be willing to forego the meal, eat, and come and sit in the balcony and enjoy it.
Or, take a chance and you might meet a new friend or reconnect with an old friend, because I see a lot of people whenever I go to dinner theater that, it's like a family reunion. They see somebody, they have no idea who's going to be there.
Sure. And, well, and a lot of times families will come as a family group and have their table of 8, but they'll see that building. It's the Hub Station Auditorium, which used to be the Hudson one of the first Hudson High Schools, and then became Hudson Elementary School. And then it was shut down for a while, and they were going to sell it, and they did sell it to the county, did to the town of Hudson for like $1. It's been totally renovated, and now it's grown into the big Hub Station Art Center. It's very, very advanced, but it's our dinner theater. But a lot of people went to school there, and they'll see some of their classmates from 40, 50 years ago at dinner. I've seen it happen time after time. So it's a time of fellowship and eating, but also a time of fellowship in the balcony and people coming down at intermission and then seeing the show. And I'd like to think that, I'm smart enough, as I've always said, to surround myself with good people. We present quality in our shows that, people come for the shows and some come to eat, to into fellowship, but it's all part of a package deal.
And I want to say something else to the gentlemen out there, because a lot of times they think of this as a girl thing.
Yeah.
Or especially with something like 9 to 5, it's a women's night out or whatever, but really your shows are for everybody.
Yes. I used to know the gentleman's name, but I've grown older. I can't remember it, but his wife, this is back when we first started dinner theater, his wife came to every show, and she had a group of girlfriends that came with her. And she kept trying to persuade him to come, and he said, "That's not for me." And he finally came, and he gave a testimony to me. He said, "I will never miss another one. I thoroughly enjoy myself." And they came. I'm not sure if they moved away or possibly even passed away now, but this was back in the late aughts or early teens, 12, 15 years ago or more. But they came regularly to several shows. He was there. He was one of the first ones to always get tickets. And so, don't give up on it. And see live theater. Whatever you see live theater. It's a good thing to do because it's a living entity that changes every night depending on just how the cast is feeling. They might pronounce one word slightly differently. There's a nuance, and it takes it in a different direction. The audience might be more responsive one night. You interrelate, but it's a living entity. So it's not like movies are great, and you should see them too. but they're celluloid, and they're set. Once it's set forever. But a play is a different entity every single night. So you can come back and see the same show 2 or 3 times and capture something different or see a different aspect of it. So.
And along those lines, because I think many of us, I'm not going to say everyone, but many of us have seen the movie 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
We know the song.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that on radio
Sure.
or now streaming our music. But
Mm-hmm.
however, so it feels familiar.
It is familiar, and that's a good point. But the thing is, in the movie, Dolly wrote that iconic, I've used that word twice now, but it is an iconic song that everyone knows. Stumble to the bed, or stumble from the bed, and stumble to the kitchen, pour myself. The 9 to 5 song. She wrote that for the movie. Well, when the play came out around 2010 or so, she wrote music and lyrics for all the songs. Now, she didn't write the book. That was a lady, I think, named Tricia Resnick's her last name. She wrote the book, which means the script. But Dolly wrote every song with lyrics and music for every song that's in the show, and there are about 18 of them. So you're getting the Dolly Parton flavor and her style too, but there is that recognition, and people know that song, but they'll recognize a few of the other songs maybe from hearing them, but they're delightful. Anyway, and Eric and I were talking before how some musicals you'll be going along, you stop and do a song, then it resumes the story. Well, this music all fits in with the story as it advances. It's very like an Oscar and Hammerstein type music. In that regard, it continues to push the story, and it's no let up from that. So that's great. And our choreographer is Holly Dagenhart, who's done several shows with me now. She's acting in this too as Judy, one of the 3 ladies, the one that was the Jane Fonda character in the movie. But Holly's very talented, multi-talented. She's a great dancer, very mesmerizing to watch dance, very professional. But she's choreographing this show. And so the choreography and the music and singing it all ties together and propels the story. So I'm enjoying creating with her on the stage. So that's a good aspect.
I'm not sure about the play because I've never seen the play, but in the movie there's some kind of action scenes, or there's a scene with the balls where they are, the girls just kind of tie him up.
Yes, well,
I mean that's some very physical acting.
There is going to be some physical acting, and that's a good place to mention what I'm about to say. That this is Dolly Parton, and you get the Dolly Parton flavor for sure. And if anybody knows, she's a little bit risque. It's not extreme.
Right.
I was just thinking about shows I've seen recently in Hickory, and even what Foothills is about to do, A Time to Kill, I think is the name of it, and the show I'm going to see this weekend in Davidson, and they all have like ratings or warn people of things that are fairly extreme. This is very innocent compared to that. I'm fine with those plays. I'm just mentioning that this fits in, but there's just accept it. I always make the analogy. The man in this show, Franklin Hart's the character, played by Mark Rose, who does a phenomenal job. Mark and I. He's acted in a couple of plays that I've directed, and we've been in a couple of plays together, but it's been years. This is the first time he's ever come to the Hub, and I'm delighted to have him there. But Mark in real life's a gentleman, a teddy bear, but he plays this misogynist, this man who objectifies women, especially the Dolly character, who's played by Angie Warren, Doralee Rhodes, and she does a great job. She's looked forward to this for a long time. And I did it with her partly in mind, knowing that she would fit this and she's going to be great. But in real life, he's not like that. But he gets his comeuppance at the end. I think he eventually gets eaten by cannibals in another country or something. They talk about that. That's not in the show, but that's not Dolly's. And Dolly narrates this show. When you get, not in person, but when you get the rights to the show, they send you a video, and there's a video of her narrating the beginning and introducing the characters and then concluding what happens to the characters at the end. And I think he gets sent off to be eaten by Aboriginal tribes or cannibals or something. But anyway.
Not on stage.
Not on stage, and not in real life. But that's my point. Characters have to be interesting, and yes, they have vices. If you just sit at the dinner table and say, "Oh, that's nice, how are you?" That's not entertainment. You go to see people. Now, some people, they say, "I just want romance, and I don't want any real life in my shows." That's one reason I see them, or movies. But when you go to see a show, you want interesting characters, whether they be drunks or whether they be women chasers, or whether they be murderers. That doesn't mean they're that in real life. I always use that analogy. Carolyn Eichard, sweet lady, who's been so involved in our theater. She's taking a little break, so we miss her, but we wish her well, and she'll be back, I'm sure. But Carolyn's been with me from the beginning in dinner theater. And when we did Arsenic and Old Lace, she was one of the old ladies who thought she was doing well by poisoning men because they were lonely. And she kills 13 people in that show. And in real life, I say, I don't think Carolyn's killed more than 3 or 4. She's not killed any, but that's what I say. So I use that as an analogy. Like you have people who are drinkers or womanizers or that sort of thing, but those are characters. So just accept that and run with it. And there's a scene where they have some, as the very naive character of Judy says, marijuana in it. But that's to set up their fantasies. They think they killed the man and they haven't, so then they have to suspend him in his house, and he does get his comeuppance in the end. But it's all very entertaining and a lot of fun. So
before we forget, because I know we've got some other things we want to talk about, not necessarily related to 9 to 5.
Yeah.
How do people get tickets?
Yeah, you can go get them in one of 3 ways. You can actually go by the hub station. It's 145 Cedar Valley Road, where the shows are. The box office is just down the hall from the auditorium. If you're coming down from Lenore and on 321, you turn off at the Highway Patrol and Dollar General Store and wind around by Hudson Middle School, and it's up there on the right. But 145 Cedar Valley on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can go in live to pick up tickets. You can call anytime and leave a message, and Addie, who's the most capable director of the hub there, will follow up and take care of you. She's been busy with this one, calling back. But Addie Cardwell-Faber recently got married. She will return your phone call, and that number is 828-726-8871. But the most convenient way, and the way you can see what you're getting right in front of you, is to go to either the Hub Station website or the Town of Hudson website and follow the link to tix.com. It's at tix.com, and it shows you how to click on that. And you can pull up any night and look at what's available and order them with your credit card online right there. And so that's very convenient. So please, and the show again, the first week is now Wednesday, March 26th, Thursday, March 27th, Friday, March 28th, Saturday, March 29th, and then a matinee on Sunday the 30th. And then the second week is the standard of what we already had, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, which is the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And that's coming up. Tickets are $37 for the Daniel Boone meal and the show, $20 for the show only in the balcony, which is where we're really headed at this point. But it'll be a quality experience. You'll enjoy it. So please call or follow up very soon. Go online and take care of that. It'll be great. And the meals are at 6:30 and the show at 7:30, except the matinee will be a 1:30 meal and a 2:30 show. So you can go to church, come eat, see the show, go back to eating at church if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, you really could just come straight from church.
Yeah, you don't have to go eat because you're eating there. Unless you're in the balcony, then grab you a sandwich and, that's good. So, so I'm real happy that it's doing well. And our dinner theater, I've been blessed. So good people, the town supports it. And I'd be remiss not to mention that McCrary Modern, such great philanthropists in the community all across the Cena 4 area. Bob McCrary, amazing, but they help sponsor every show that we do, and without them we couldn't do it as readily. The Caldwell Arts Council helps sponsor us, and there are other angels that we have. But people don't realize what it takes to put on the show, both financially and literally when you add the 30 or so people in the show for this, counting the backstage people, the hours put in amount to the thousands. Each person's putting in probably over 100 hours in their own time at home as well, and I'm working on them 4 or 5 months in advance. But we want to make it look like it's effortless. We succeeded then, but it's not effortless. It's a continual, and we always can use people backstage helping or building. So, contact me at the Town of Hudson if you have any interest in that in the future. So.
Speaking of the future, I'm really excited about this part.
Yeah.
Keith, tell me what's coming up.
Okay. After 9 to 5, we now do 3 shows a year, at least for the foreseeable future. And the summer show, as last year was our inaugural year, and we did The Last Romance. It was just 3 characters. It's only 1 weekend run. So it's a smaller scale show. And this spring, it's going to our summer in June. I think the dates are June 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's a one-man show. It's called Say Goodnight, Gracie, about George Burns. And it's going to be played by David Ring, who's an accomplished actor who moved to Lenore with his wife, who used to be from this area. And he was Father Tim in the Mitford series when we did that. Has to memorize a lot of lines, obviously, since it's a one-man show. But I saw this show at SART, Southern Appalachian Repertory Theater Company in Mars Hill, about 3 years ago. This is one of the most successful ever running one-person shows on Broadway. It lasted longer and had more attendance than almost any other one-person show. But it's delightful because it's set back like in the 50s or 60s, and you go back to the Ed Sullivan Show, and we have some television interaction. But he's only on stage alone. Now, Gracie has voiceovers at times. But anybody who, older audience members, will recognize George Burns, remember who he is. You know, he played God in the Old God thing with John Denver in the movies. But smoked that cigar and lived to be 100. But very iconic, like Jack Benny and Bob Hope, all those people from that era. But you will learn a lot about him, but it's an entertaining show. It's funny and poignant at times, too. So I'm excited about that. Much smaller scale than this, but that'll be our summer production. And then in the fall, we're doing a show called Dark of the Moon. That at one time was the most produced show in America, back in the 50s or 60s. And Dark of the Moon tells loosely the story of the Ballad of Barbara Yallen, which is an Appalachian tale, but it's based on an old Scottish song about Barbara Allen. And it's not a musical, but there'll be music in it. We'll have some ballads and have some people playing guitar. And then there's some hymns when they have a big revival church service that people will know, 3 or 4, very like Blessed Assurance and that sort of thing. And it's about a witch boy. And it's not witches like, ooh, evil witches. It's just folklore. And this witch boy develops this huge crush on this beautiful Southern girl, Barbara Allen. And he goes to the witch council to implore them to turn him human. He wants to be human. And so they grant his wish on the fact that she won't jilt him. Well, circumstances arise where he eventually has to become a witch again. So it's rather poignant and sad, but it's moving at the same time. And I think it'll really set that flavor of like our Americana, Appalachian mountain ballad type thing. So I'm looking forward to it. As I said, it was the most produced show in America at one time. And I saw it back in the 70s, I think. Hadn't really thought about it for years. So I thought, I want to do this. And we're doing it right before Halloween. So it'll fit that mood of, the mountains and the full moon and all of that sort of thing. So I'm excited about that. And a lot of people who I can't use in musicals because they don't sing can come in this, and it's a wide open audition. Nobody's been cast, so it's like 25 people and then some extras to sing to and things. So it's a good full cast. And then next spring will be our 40th show next spring. And it's the only time, I'm over 200 shows now, Paige. That's how old I am. I started in 1977, and I've averaged about 5 a year for 47 years. But I'm over 200, all the way from a few professional to some regional to school and community and everything in between. And it's all been a blessing. And I've, sung and acted and directed music and directed shows, even produced shows and started to write some things. But it's been a great journey. But in the 40 shows at that time that I will have done at the Hub, directed at the Hub, it's the first time we've ever repeated a show. And we're doing Inherit the Wind. And the reason I'm doing it, I'll admit it's a showcase for Charlie. You've heard me talk about Charlie Finkel, who's a retired California lawyer who moved to Taylorsville. And he's been in several other shows. He was the lawyer in To Kill a Mockingbird and the lead on Golden Pond recently, and does a lot of nice delightful character roles too. He played Uncle Billy in the Mitford, Welcome to Mitford plays, the 2 we did. It was the same show, but we did 2 versions of it, or 2 runs of it. And he's a lawyer, a retired lawyer in real life. I went head to head with Rick Eller in that back in 2011. And now 14 years later, Charlie and I are going to be the 2 lead lawyers. It's based on the Scopes Monkey trial, set in Tennessee in 1927, and they're fictional lawyers, but they play the 2 real lawyers, William Jennings Bryan and Henry Darrow, who were at the monkey trial. So it's very touching, and in some cases because of the development of the characters, but it's also but it's not political like it's so good to be removed from our modern political. It's just political in the sense of really more spiritual, religious than like. It's the first time that the state is trying to be able to teach evolution, and they're bringing these lawyers in for political reasons to take each side.
Right.
And we'll have a real monkey in the show. You know, the first time we did it, I played the lawyer, the William Jennings Bryan character, and Matthew, I can't think of my last name, Matthew Harrison Brady, the character. And Carolyn Eichard was my wife, and we had a monkey named Micro that I brought in to do the show. And Micro was human-like. It was a little girl monkey. She was 12 inches long and had a long tail and was 7 pounds. And her mother Denise in real life, a human mother, dressed her in beautiful little skirts and dresses. But she took care of it, and then she changed for the show.
Right.
Became a boy monkey. But she was very guarded about knowing her parameters, and nobody could approach her closely because she just wanted to be safe. And she did let me feed her bananas and things. But Micro loved Tic Tacs, and monkeys are so human-like so often. But one night, Carolyn Eichard, being the kind person she was, brought a little box of green Tic Tacs to Micro. And Micro cracked them up on the edge of the table and just started with little fingers picking them up, just so human-like. And so later that evening, that particular night, the father, Denise's husband, the monkey father, human father, had brought the monkey. And Denise was there, but she wasn't having to watch it that night. And he was letting it up on his shoulders, running around. She kept it very contained. And Carolyn happened to walk by behind the monkey. This is after she'd given her the Tic Tacs. And I guess she got hyped up on sugar. But anyway, somebody from across the room said, Carolyn. And Carolyn was moving, and she also said, I'll never forget it. I was sitting 12 feet away. She said, what? She's got a big voice anyway. And that started the monkey. And it wasn't an attack. It was a fear bite. That monkey, I watched it leapt onto Carolyn's arm, and it latched on with its mouth like here and its paws up here. And it wasn't an attack. It just held on. And I was trying to get up to go to it. It was all like slow motion. And David Abernathy, Dr. Abernathy, was playing the organ grinder who had his Scottish kilt on. He's trying to get over to tend to Carolyn. This guy named Lynn Howard, who worked, I think, for the Caldwell Agricultural Extension back then, said, Carolyn, country fire, if you put some hound grease, when they put some country hound grease on, it'll keep it from scarring. That was all happening. And Carolyn could have said, I'm being bitten, help, get this monkey out. The only thing she said, I'll never forget it, she said, Micro, I bought you Tic Tacs. That monkey said, and so later I joked with Carolyn and said, Micro wanted orange Tic Tacs, and you brought her green Tic Tacs. So
I mean, really, orange are the best.
Yeah,
so.
well, Carolyn did the show that night with a purple arm, went to the doctor, got a tetanus shot. She was fine, but she's so non-litigious and didn't sue the town or anything. But we'll have a monkey in this show, too. We'll make sure it's well behaved and well contained. But I'm looking forward to that experience and doing that with Charlie. And I got a lot of ideas for that already. Summer show 2026 will be me again. I'm going to act one more time and hang it up for a while or maybe forever, I don't know, with a guy named Ron Lale from Hickory, who's been with us since on Golden Pond. Now, he's delightful. He's developing the set for this show, designing It's a big turntable, a round turntable. And Ron and I are going to play Greater Tuna, the 10 different characters in Greater Tuna, male and female. And that should be at least entertaining to people. I don't know how good it'll be.
That should be very entertaining.
But I've already working on some of my voices. And half the characters are women and half of them are men. It's just quick changes and suggesting certain pieces. You don't change full costumes because it just keeps flowing. But that's the and then the fall we're doing a Beauty and the Beast. So that's the fall of 2026. And that's wide open too for casting. So that'll be a big undertaking. So those counting this show, that's our next 6 shows.
So we now know what to be looking for.
And we're not a theater, we're a town, so I applaud us for doing that. So, we don't do 6, 8, 10, 12 shows a year like some of the theater companies do, so you kind of have to watch for us when we come aboard.
But pretty faithfully, spring, a summer show, and a fall show.
Yes, at least for these next 2 years. And again, the summer shows are smaller scale because it'll probably just run one weekend. Maybe if it goes really well, 2, but probably just one weekend and just 2, 3 characters, so maybe the most 6 or 8. Whereas 9 to 5 or Beauty and the Beast or even the fall show, Dark of the Moon, and the spring show next year, Inherit the Wind. And I used to joke, I said, it's a show about a clockmaker, Inherit the Wine. I was just being goofy. But those are big scale shows. But we couldn't cram them into the summer space we have. But these smaller shows, it's just a nice little niche and gives a break to those big running shows. So,
well, thank you for being here, Keith.
Well,
but before we say goodbye for our show tonight, let's go over one more time dates, how to get tickets, all of those pertinent things for 9 to 5, because we've talked about a lot of shows. So for 9 to 5, which is coming up at the end of March.
That's right. We're working 24/7 on 9 to 5. 9 to 5, it opens Wednesday, March 26th. That's literally 4 weeks from this taping, which we're on a Wednesday afternoon. I know we don't put dates on it, but I say, so we're 4 weeks out. And it runs March 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th, the 30th being a Sunday matinee. It's 6:30 every night for dinner, 7:30 for the show. And you get tickets in one of 3 ways: by going by the Hub Station box office, or calling and leaving a message, or going to thetix.com, which we talked about all of those. $37 for the meal and the show, $20 for the show only. And try to, as soon as you see this, don't hesitate or procrastinate. Go ahead and get your tickets, because even if you have to sit in the balcony for this one, you'll be glad you did. I feel sure.
Keith, thank you for being here. Thank you for our preview of the next 2 years. Well,
2 years. Yeah. Well, I told you when I meant to tell you, if I didn't, when I started, I had 3 purposes today. One was to just promote our theater and get 9 to 5 out there, and then 2, to try to sell some balcony tickets. But the third thing is I want to take an opportunity to thank you and Eric for all you do to support our theater and all you do in the community in general. So I applaud you for that. But it helps, and it's fun to come talk about these things. And you've seen shows, and Eric's seen and been in shows, and I'm proud of what we do. I put our quality up against anything around us, and people need to give it a chance, see what it's all about.
I would highly recommend giving it a chance, seeing what it's all about, and 9 to 5 would be a really fun show to do that with.
That's right. Very good. Come at 6:30 for 9 to 5, 9 o'clock.
That's right. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Paige.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.